These are two of our top players right now. Cherish, we're all familiar with. She's been in the scene for a very long time, and she's really been gunning for getting first place in this tournament. And Gideon is a bit of a newcomer. I mean, he's been in the circuit for a long time, but he's been in the youth scene for much longer, or at least in the middle school division. These players are in first and second place, which means that this can really push these players to secure a top spot. All right, and we're coming live to both Gideon and Cherish. They're at their station. With 6-0 record, she has a plus 704 spread. That means that she's winning her games on average by over 100 points.
That is really crazy. Now, Gideon is second to no one, and we know that he's been really putting in the works. He's been studying. I know he has his fours down pat, and Cherish, as we know, really knows her bingos. So let's see what Gideon pulls out of the bag and what we are gonna come down on the board.
Both of these players are known for their creative plays, so I'm expecting that we're going to have a very lively board with some incredible showcases of their skills.
This is not a rack anyone really wants to see coming out. We know from experience that younger players have a tendency to play very quickly, and for Gideon to have taken this much time on his first move is uncommon in a tournament like this.
And he's going to go with the safe play of Ahi, which I think makes a lot of sense. If you are unsure between two words like that, it is not worth it to take the coin flip that you're going to lose a turn entirely. But moving over to Cherish's rack, with that nice opening draw with the blank, she's actually going to be able to drop down a couple different bingos. I think the best one is going to be Cuddled, playing right next to Ahi, which is going to score her a nice 69 points.
With Cherish putting aside the tiles for Duct, she might be second guessing the bingo of Cuddled. I think we're going to see Duct come down just any moment now. It's a little sad to see her forego that bingo, but we know that the fact that she spotted it in the first place is amazing. It is a testament to how much she has been studying and the effort that she's putting into, just being such a great player.
And moving over to Gideon's rack, he actually has a very nice rack for scoring, but the board isn't that open to it. The W and the K and the N all work together very well, but it's going to be difficult for him to find a nice spot.
Such a stylish play to play Cola, though. I mean, to just show his knowledge of the fours. But I do like that he's going ahead with Wick. I think even though Cola would have scored him a few more points, it would have been nice to see Gideon play Wacko. However, he's got that W off his rack. He's got the K off his rack. This is a good point. This is a good start for to develop the next rack that he's going to pick up.
And moving over to Cherish's rack, she has a couple bingos here. I think that blank is really helping her out. It's putting her in a good position. I don't think she has any sevens, so she's going to really have to reach deep into her mind to find some of these plays. But a lot of words go through that A in Ahi. Things like multiist or medalist. Those types of plays are going to come down and score her a nice 60 points and put her in a very nice position to start off this game.
Right. There we go. Totalism is coming down. I think this is a fantastic play. She's spotted it pretty immediately, and it went down without any issue. So great job. It does, however, go back and give a bingo to Gideon, who dearly needed that T.
And exactly as we expected, Cherish made that blank into an O. And yes, we're going to see Solating come down. So a bingo right coming back against Cherish's bingo. Interestingly, in that position, if he had looked a bit longer, he actually had another bingo of anti-logs, which would be another double-double. But Solating is definitely nothing to scoff at. It's going to score him a nice 70 points and make this game back to neck and neck and really stick it back to Cherish and say, you need to come back from this deficit that you're at. And looking over at Cherish's rack, this is the type of rack that you wouldn't expect to have anything good. I mean, 2 U's, an H, a B. But in this position, it actually works out really well for her because Solating opens up a dangerous power 5 where she can drop that H on the triple letter score just like she's doing, drop the B on a double word score, and score herself 36 points, which is definitely a nice way to come back into this game. It works out really well. It uses up her clunkier tiles and it scores her a lot of points. So it's It's in all just a perfect play for her. Moving over to Gideon, however, he finds himself in a very familiar position to a lot of Scrabble players, which is having pretty good Scrabble Earl tiles and not knowing whether or not you have a bingo.
However, Gideon does have Ogold set up on his rack, and I think he's looking at that spot on the triple so he can get a lot of points. And I think that's a perfectly valid play. I mean, if he doesn't see lodgement, then Ogold is going to score him an easy 26 points, and it's going to keep TN. So great job, Gideon, spotting that pretty quickly.
Any play like Brush is going to open up the top of the board in a way that is very dangerous to both players. It can be hard to start off a very high scoring word with a vowel, but in this position, I think it makes a lot of sense for Gideon to drop some of his clunkier tiles in that position, score pretty well, and not let Cherish have that dangerous position.
So I'm not sure if you noticed, Jeffrey, but Cherish did have Unco, UNCO, set up on her rack, and I believe she may have been looking at this position underneath Wick to play that. I think she might be going with Unco here. Oh, in a she might be playing Uncos. Interesting. So that's 14 points instead. And that's slightly worse, I would say, than playing Unco underneath. I think strategically, it might not be a bad idea in that she's trying to stop a few of those floaters. She's taking charge of that S that's floating on the board as well. So it's harder to play bingos, for example, through the L or through that S or that M. But I would have liked to see her play Unco over here instead, underneath the W. I wonder now if Gideon is going to consider playing something such as Coney, Coney, through the C that is in Uncos. That would score him a decent 28 points. That's really good, keeping his NOT.
He actually has a couple other options available to him. So something he could definitely play some letters through the N in solating, something like Toyon, or he has some very flashy plays like Tycoon through the C in Uncos. Something like that would clean up a lot of his rack. It would leave a very open triple lane for an S, but at this point in the game, you're not sure what's going to happen. Now, this is interesting. Gideon's actually just going to go with a simple koi, and I think it's honestly a very smart move. The leave on his rack is Tonne, which is going to leave him pretty flexible to deal with anything that Cherish could throw at him in the future. And crucially, it doesn't open up the triple lane very much.
So Cherish now dealing with this barrage of consonants. I'm not really sure what she is going to do. All right. Oh, she's coming down with flop. That's really interesting.
I think in this position, it's just a really hard play to find poof. Flop also closes down a little bit of the board, but in effect, it's pretty similar. It's a difference of 5 points, and I'm sure if Cherish had spotted poof, she would have preferred that. But flop is going to come down, and it does get rid of a couple of those tiles. It's going to drop the P and the F, and it's going to score her a pretty good amount of points. And wow, Gideon's going to blitz out Tane up on the top left. The
Oh,
benefit of that
wow.
is that it's going to score him pretty well, and it's going to just drop down a couple of his tiles. Because he was swamped with a lot of these one pointers, he's really trying to reset and get some more scoring tiles, which Cherish seems to have so many of on her rack. Yeah, Jivey looks like it's a really strong play here. It's going to drop the J and the V, and it's going to score her a lot of points because of the combination of high scoring tiles in that rack. The dangerous thing about this is it puts the J right in that triple lane. And while it scores well for Cherish, it's going to give Gideon a really good chance to play something to just score a lot of points. And he's not going for it. Oh,
Because
he's
he's got
found.
Aeolian pretty immediately. Wow, great job, Gideon. Very beautifully done. I think it just goes to show how well he's been studying, how amazingly he's been doing so far. So far, we have seen him just leave no prisoners behind. He's so sure of his high probability bingos, and that's fantastic. That's exactly what you need to be doing over here.
One thing that I know a lot of Scrabble players struggle with is remembering which tiles can be double letters and which can't. So I wouldn't be that surprised if we saw something like Finagles come down with two N's to score a triple triple, but she's going to play it correctly, and she's going to play Finagles through the I in Aeolian. Um, and it's going to put her right back into the game. She's finally able to score well, and it's going to put Gideon in a position where now he's no longer in the lead and he actually has to strike out again and try to find his way fours. And yes, looking at it, she did properly mark the blank as an L. If he draws a U in this position, he could play something like quote through Aeolian or a couple other different options. And yes, Brent is going to come down. I think we would have preferred to see Brent, but often those types of 5-letter words are harder to spot and harder to be confident in. And Bren is going to achieve a lot of the same effects.
So many A's unseen to him. He might have an opportunity to play cat somewhere else on the board, perhaps making tag and cat. But what he doesn't know is that there are no more A's left to be had. Oh wow, Cherish played very, very quickly, barely had a chance to notice. She put down a jar. That's a fantastic find. Great job, Cherish. She's getting the points. She's moving on. She's getting rid of those extra A's. It's been so heavy on her rack because she was just bogged down with all these vowels. And now it's back to Gideon. He's got to figure out what to do with that Q. Is he going to dump it this turn?
Reaching into the bag is something that a lot of players who haven't done competitive Scrabble aren't very familiar with, but it is a very loud move where you can just say counting and you show your palms are empty and you can reach into the bag and count how many tiles are left. And this is useful for a couple different reasons. First of all, your choices of plays may change drastically from the beginning of the game to the end of the game. In the beginning of the game, it's way more okay to open up brand new lines and to make these crazy plays. But at the end of the game, it's a lot more important to stay strategic and close and make sure that you have the advantage in the end game.
What's interesting though is that he also inadvertently blocked Cherish's play of EAUX underneath
Wow.
finagles because E would have gone over here making fee and U is a valid word and AX would have been tripled in two different directions.
She's going to go with Lex, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's going to score her pretty well, but I don't think it's as flexible as I would have preferred her play to be. In this position with this many vowels, you really don't want to be in a position where you are stuck heading into the end game. And what she leaves open is this double letter score next to AG, which I think Gideon is going to hit extremely hard. With the Z going down there, he can play Zag and Yez, which is going to score over 50 points and really put him into a dangerous position. Gideon has studied the differences between the new dictionary and the dictionary that they're playing here, which is the OSPD, and it has a couple crucial differences. And one of them is that Yez is not a valid word in the OSPD dictionary. Even though it is in most of the other popular dictionaries for Scrabble, it is not valid. They both are in very different positions. Cherish is continuously swamped by these vowels that she's not really getting rid of as fast as she needs to. And with the V going onto her rack, she's going to need to find something very creative in order to put herself in a good position moving into the future.
Yeah, I wonder what she's going to do because these aren't exactly. Oh, never mind. Cherish came down with VAR pretty quickly. I think scoring here is not a bad idea, and it's up to Gideon now to get himself some points and move ahead. I think just PYE here to the triple is a good idea. He just or DY. I actually would prefer to get the PY out. Just get those tiles out, get those points. There are, of course, players who use up all of their times and win multiple games. And I think Die is a really good play here. I'm glad that he's picking, playing nice and slow, as you mentioned, and keeping those two E's. Perhaps he might be able to bingo on this board.
The standout spot for Ionium is above the S in Finagles. It's going to drop the M onto the double letter score, and it's a very risky play at this late into the game. You often don't see this type of opening play at this late in the game because you know what your opponent has, and your opponent has honed their rack to be extremely powerful, especially in this endgame. That being said, it is her best play, and it's going to drop a lot of those vowels that she's been plagued with and score really well with that M.
Now it's up to Gideon to go ahead and find Sweeper, and he does it immediately. Oh my god, that is
Wow.
such a swing. That went from being such a close game to that, wow, that beautiful, beautiful blank. that beautiful bingo coming down and just taking the game for Gideon.
And that's
Really,
going
really
to
well
empty
done.
the bag, which means that Cherish doesn't have a chance to respond. This is a walk-off bingo. Gideon is going to jump from being 20 down to over 60 up and win this game, breaking Cherish's undefeated record.
That is a mammoth. That is so, yeah, that is a Herculean task. Great job, Gideon. And right now we can see Cherish challenging both words, sweeper and coys, and they are going to come out valid.
Yeah, I mean, Sweeper coming down at the last minute is a devastating blow. I mean, it instantly wins the game for him just because Cherish doesn't have a chance to respond. And that's exactly what we saw here. So all of Cherish's extra tiles are going to be added to Gideon's score. And despite this being a neck and neck, really close game for the entire game up until the very end, Gideon is going to end up a full bingo ahead, 60 points.